What's up, guys? Welcome back to another edition of the Leadoff Show. This is April 2nd. We have a 9-game MLB slate on Draftkings that we'll go over. Sorry I haven't really got video out the last few days. Any day I don't get a video out, I still try to do a write-up on my website here. So something, maybe follow me on Twitter or something, I'll start putting the link out for this, even if I don't put the video out. You can say I kind of give a quick breakdown of just what's going on. So but happy to be back for another video. I think I mentioned the other day, it looks like the Plate IQ that I used to show last year is behind the paywall now. So I'm going to try to just walk you through some of the other stats that I'm seeing. I'll look for some other free sites to show, but I'm going to try to stay away from showing some of the premium stuff that I subscribe to, just because I'm not affiliated with those sites, but still try to do my best to give you guys a full rundown. Real quick on the weather, there's definitely some concern on this slate. This is our first game here. These are early. Detroit and the Mets. Looking at Roth's weather report here, I'm just going to consider this game is not happening. I mean, might rain 9 a.m. to midnight. We can come down here and look. Yeah, 93%, 83% chance. So I'm just going to skip this game. I'd be shocked if it plays. As for the Chicago games, it looks like they should go. It'll still be cool with winds blowing out. But I think it looks like they'll both play. So maybe Ross says maybe after a slight delay they'll be able to play. Yeah, so it looks like they might have to late start a little bit, but I think everyone's fine, even pitchers. I wouldn't be concerned just because delays don't hurt, or late starts don't hurt pitchers. It's only delays. So I think we'll be okay there, and we'll go over these teams when we get there. All right, let's get started here. Where's the first game? Tigers Mets. Like I mentioned, it is Casey Mize versus Adrian Hauser, but we're just gonna skip this one. I'm interested to see what Casey Mize does this year, but I don't think this game happens today. So let's just move on in the interest of time. All right, so Braves White Sox. We got Ronaldo Lopez 7.5K versus Garrett Crochet 7K. Ronaldo Lopez is making the transition from relief pitchers to a starter. So he's had some really good numbers the last couple of years, but that has been out of the bullpen. So as always, that is subject to change. I think here in the spot though, with the cool weather, facing his former team too against the White Sox, where he spent a lot of time, I think he's certainly in play. I think he kind of in that 7K range is probably maybe him and Cortez are the only ones I'm even considering. But I mean, this White Sox lineup has massive strikeout numbers. Looking at it now, they got 28% K rates on Moncada, Luis Robert, and Paul DeJong, and Maldonado. The Braves believe in Lopez enough to sign him and make him a starter. So I really like Lopez here. I think the weather certainly helps as well. I mean, he's probably used to at least pitching in somewhat of the cold in Chicago. So I'm not too concerned about the wind blowing out. I think it'll be fine. So as for Crochet, it's just not worth it here. He had a great start. Opening day, I guess it was against the Tigers, right? Yeah, you can see here, but it's just not worth it here. I'm not going to be playing left-handed pitching against the Braves. So we can just move on from there. If you want to go for them, best of luck to you. As for hitters, I mean, obviously anyone on this Braves team is in play. I think they're probably the top on stack today, if you can afford some cheap pitching. But I mean, they absolutely crush lefties, especially Albies, switch hitter from the right side. He destroys lefties. And Crochet does struggle more against lefties. He has a pretty good ISO number against left-handed batters, but right-handers kind of tear him up. So I feel like you're probably gonna have to play some guys like Duvall or Arcia, just to kind of afford this stack. Maybe Darno as well. But I think anyone's in play. I may stay away from Harris, just lefty, but I think anyone else is in play. But I mean, it's easy to say the Braves are the top team on the slate. So as for the White Sox, I think I'm going to stay away. With the mix of the weather and Lopez looking good so far in spring, and in the past couple years as a relief pitcher, I'm just going to be out on the White Sox. All right, moving over, we got Rockies Cubs, Kyle Freeland 6.3K versus Javier Assad 6.6K. As for Freeland, I'm probably out. I don't think I'll ever play Freeland. Yeah, I mean, he's a low strikeout pitcher. At least he's not pitching in cores this game, but I just don't see it. I mean, the weather might help him out a little bit, and it might, you know, we might be able to salvage, you know, 5 or 6 innings. But I'd be shocked if he had, you know, more than, you know, a strikeout per 9. He's probably somewhere around like 4 strikeouts at most or something. So that's not gonna be enough to win. As for Assad, he's a below average strikeout pitcher as well. The matchup certainly helps facing the Rockies. What's he? He's 6.6K. I think that's probably the only reason I would consider him. Is the price tag. I mean, if you want to use him and get a bunch of the top Braves, I could see that, but I mean, just know he's not a good pitcher. It's just the matchup and weather kind of dictate that. As for the Chicago Bats, I think you can. I don't know. Looking at it now, they have guys that can really hit left-handed pitching, but it's just this weather is my concern. I mean, a 7 total here is just so low. So I think I'll probably just out. These prices are pretty steep too. If you were to grab a couple of these top guys, maybe Yan Gomes down at the bottom. He's done well against left-handed pitching. Absolutely crushed them last season. So maybe Yan Gomes, but other than that, I think I'm out. As for the Rockies, I mean, taking a team with a 2.9 run total, I think the weather mixed with the struggles so far this year, I think I'm going to be out on the Rockies. All right, let's keep it moving here. We got next game is Blue Jays versus Astros. Jose Barrios 7.7K, Framber Valdez 8.5K. Starting with Barrios, this is just a tough matchup for anybody against Houston. He did look pretty good to start the season against Tampa Bay, 6Ks through 6 innings. So he should be able to, I think at this point, consider him full leash, but I just won't be playing pitching against Houston very often. I don't see myself getting to him here. As for Valdez, I mean, I would suspect that the Blue Jays get a hit today, so I'm not too worried about that. But Valdez struggled out of the gate against the Yankees. 6 walks is not like him, so definitely worries me. I would probably want to. I think I'm probably gonna wait and see for Valdez. He was great against lefties last year, 32.5% K rate. But I mean, what's he looking at? Varsho is the only lefty here. So I think I'm probably just going to be out on Valdez. But as for the Blue Jay bats, though, some of the guys that you would suspect to be great against lefties, like Springer and Vlad, actually have really low ISO numbers. So my biggest interest here would probably be in like Justin Turner. He had a monster game the other night versus a lefty. So I think that's probably where I would tend to go. But as for, hold on, I got the dog coming in here. Okay. As for the Astros bats, I think I think we can take. I'm just looking at these prices. I mean, Diaz is still 3.3K. It's crazy cheap for how good of a talent he is. He had 2 home runs last night. Barrios is definitely a serviceable pitcher. I don't know. I mean, it's easy just to say Alvarez and Tucker. I mean, they're always in play, and obviously Diaz. But I don't know if I'll get to a full stack here of Houston, just because I think Barrios will kind of keep them, in that 3 to 4 run range, which isn't going to be quite enough to win a tournament or something. But it's certainly worth considering, and we can kind of come back to them as we get going further into the slate. All right, next game we got Guardians Mariners. Shane Bieber 8.8K, Luis Castillo 9.4K. Bieber was incredible opening start. I mean, it was Oakland. You're gonna hear a lot about him going to Driveline this year, or over the summer, or off season, not summer. was that the reason for the 11 Ks, or was it the fact that he was facing Oakland? I do like Bieber here in this spot, though. Mariners have struck out a decent amount this year, and really the heart of their order does have high strikeouts. So it really just comes down to if you're a believer in what Bieber showed last week, or if you just think that was a product of him facing the A's. But I really like Bieber here. I think even against a solid team like the Mariners, I think this is a great spot for him. As for Castillo, he was pretty rough opening day, if I recall. 5 innings, 6 hits, so 4 runs. Yeah, so certainly not what you would love to see. Only 8 Draftkings points at first start against Boston. Here against the Guardians, it's a very low strikeout team. Castillo certainly can create strikeouts for anyone, though. So I do like Castillo. I think he's, I don't know. I mean, the only problem is his price tag. He's 9.4K. So he's more expensive than Bieber, more expensive than Gallen. So I think that makes him low owned. But I don't like him as much as those guys. I think just pure projection is probably Bieber as a top pitcher, but Castillo is kind of an interesting spot here that I wouldn't mind taking a shot on him. So he'll definitely be in consideration. As for the hitters, I'm probably out on the Guardians. I don't know. They don't have a ton of upside, a ton of power. Castillo is a solid pitcher. Even he had a bad game versus Boston and still only gave up 4 runs. So I think I'm just going to be out on the Guardians. You can take a shot on like Naylor or somebody, Josh Naylor for a home run, or Jose Ramirez if you can afford him. But for the full stack, I'm probably out. As for the Mariners, I think I'm going to be out on them as well. I talked about how much I like Bieber. They're purely just a leverage play. But a 9-game slate, fading Bieber is probably enough leverage. You don't have to, get cute and stack against them or anything. He does have a little bit worse. Bieber does have a little bit worse numbers versus lefties. But I mean, where are the good lefties in this lineup? There's not any. So I guess that puts Polanco and Cal Raleigh kind of in consideration, just as switch hitters. But 4.2 is kind of steep for this matchup against Bieber. All right, we move on. Yankees Diamondbacks. We got Nestor Cortez 7.3K versus Zach Gallen 9.1K. Cortez is kind of an interesting spot here. Tough matchup to start the season with Houston and Arizona. You see, just kind of had a middle of the road performance there to start the season. He certainly has upside. He's done really well versus lefties in the past. I think the Diamondbacks will do a good job of platooning against him, though. I think the only lefty he'll face is Carroll, which, is not an easy lefty to face. So I'm a little bit lower on Cortez. He's in that same price as Ronaldo Lopez. I think I would lean Ronaldo Lopez, but I don't know. Cortez, I don't know. I feel like if I play him, he does terrible. If I don't, he does solid. So he's one of those guys that's just kind of, if he has his control and his, the wonkiness up there with his delivery and stuff, he can have a decent game. But I think my preference would be Lopez, but Cortez is certainly in play just at that price tag. But it is a tough matchup. All right, as for Gallen, I only went 5 innings versus the Rockies first start. Obviously, we would expect him to go further than that. The real concern here is only the 3 Ks. I think I like Bieber and Castillo more on this slate. I'm really not. I really don't like this matchup for Gallen. He's as for aces go, he's not a huge strikeout pitcher. This is a tough matchup. 4 strikeouts against the Yankees. Of course, they have some bats like Stanton and Volpe that strike out a ton. But then they've added guys like Verdugo and Soto that carry really low strikeout rates. So I think I'm gonna be at least under the field on Gallen. If he's popular, I definitely will not play him. If he comes in unowned, he's certainly going to be in consideration. That's kind of how I'll handle it, especially with somebody of his talent. It's like if he's not owned, I mean, he's worth playing just for the upside. But if he's shown anything near the ownership of like Castillo and Bieber, then I'm certainly going to be out. Yankees bats, though, I don't think Everything I just said about Gallen, it's more just the price compared with the strikeout rate. I'm not trying to play the Yankees here in this spot. Gallen's a little bit worse to lefties, but I don't think it's worth paying up for Soto on this or anything like that. Maybe Verdugo still 4K, so I'm probably not going to play any Yankees. As for the Diamondbacks, we talked about Cortez being better against lefties. He'll certainly see a lot of righties here in this matchup. I think he'll get some guys like Christian Walker or Gabriel Moreno, Lourdes Gurriel, Ketel Marte. These guys do really well against left-handed pitching, so I think Diamondbacks are certainly in play. They may come in a little bit lower on just because they came in way lower on than I expected on Monday night. Maybe it's the prices that kind of limit that a little bit. I don't think you can afford max 2 of these top 4 hitters. But I think I would add in Moreno. Blaze Alexander would be interesting for a cheap guy. So this might be more of a mini stack for me. I'm not sure if I can find 5 guys that I can afford that I like here in this spot. All right, we got 3 games left. Next game we got Cardinals Padres. Miles Michaelis 6.2K versus Yu Darvish 8.2K. Michaelis got hammered by the Dodgers to start the season. It did get 5Ks, a little bit more than we would expect from him. But here in this spot against the Padres, it's a terrible strikeout matchup. We're gonna be saying that a lot about the Padres this season. And Michaelis, maybe that's something we keep an eye on if he did improve his strikeouts that he showed last start. But I think I can just move on. I'm going to be out on Michaelis here in this spot. As for Darvish, this is a tough strikeout matchup as well against the Cardinals. What did Darvish do last time out? It's kind of a 5 innings, 7Ks. So it was something to keep an eye on for him as well. Obviously, he's been a huge strikeout guy in the past. Was down a little bit last season, but it does interest me a little bit. Does have better strikeout numbers versus lefties, and he'll see. But this is kind of a weird team. He'll probably see the least amount of lefties all season. Looks like what we're looking at here. 4 lefties? Yeah, that doesn't happen these days. Usually with platoon advantage and switch hitters and stuff, usually it's like 7 against you. So he's really not going to see a lot of lefties. But that is where he struggles with power, and higher strikeouts, but also more power. So I don't know if you're buying what Darvish did last start against the Giants. I think he's interesting. The price certainly makes him playable. So I think he's gonna be in consideration for me. He's not gonna be like a must play or top play or anything like that, but I think he's gonna be in consideration. All right, as for the Cardinals bats, if we do attack Darvish, I mentioned better Ks versus lefties, but also more power. That points straight to Nolan Gorman. He's massive power numbers last season, but he does come with a high K rate. So it's really boom or bust here in the spot. I do like Gorman as a one-off. I think that makes for a good one-off. If I'm not stacking you, I just need that home run or 2 extra base hit day or something from you. So I do think that's playable. I probably won't go full stack Cardinals. But I could see myself going Gorman. And then 2, there's these guys at the bottom of the order. I don't know if you guys have seen them yet, but they run like crazy. And they can absolutely fly. Victor Scott, if he gets on base, he's going to run. It's just a matter of getting on base. He went, over 4 last night. So this is certainly somebody, if you need a cheap one-off, I think he might come in somewhat popular as a cheap one-off. I don't know, not to the point of like where you avoid him popular, but if you just get to the point where you need a cheap outfielder, Ruiz got sent down, so we can't bank on that this season. But I think Scott makes for a good play here just with his steal upside. As for the Padres, certainly have interest for them against Michaelis. The price tag here, let's look at that for some of these guys. Pretty good. I think we can play most of them. Not too concerned about the price tag. It's fairly reasonable. Let's see. Where Michaelis definitely weaker against left-handed pitching, has decent power against decent ISO numbers against righties. But I mean, these righties, Tatis and Machado, are studs. I think that probably put me out on Bogarts. He kind of needs help in that regard. for power. So I think I really like Tatis Machado. Kind of wish there was some better lefties in this lineup. Really nothing near the top. So maybe just the mini stack. I don't know if I'd get to 5. Maybe I'll mess around with that later and see. Might have to include some of these guys at the bottom of the order. But Merrill, Tatis, Cronenworth, Machado, I really like. And then if you need a catcher, Campusano is really good. So I think they had 26 points the other night. So all right, move on. We got next game. We got Red Sox, A's, Brian Bayo, 8K for the Red Sox versus Alex Wood, 6K for the A's. Bayo had a definitely a mid opening start. Looks like he kind of limited the damage, but only had 2 Ks. But here in the spot against Oakland's absolutely terrible. Don't even get me started on the errors last night. I had Boyle, and they made errors that absolutely crushed him. He threw probably 50 more pitches in the first 3 innings than he should have. Last year, Bayo had extremely low strikeout numbers against lefties, which is a little bit of a concern. 13.7 K rate versus lefties, a 25% K rate versus righties. He's going to see a handful of lefties in this lineup, but I mean this A's lineup has massive strikeout numbers, about 27% overall as a team against right-handed pitching. I think Bayo, especially with his price, 8K, he's probably the highest on pitcher on the slate. Him and Bieber, I would think, are again that 25 to 32% ownership range. But I mean, this is such a great spot for Bayo. If you, as long as you don't play Bieber, Bayo, and the Braves or something, I think you're probably different enough here on this 9-game slate that I think he makes for a great play. As for Alex Wood, he's kind of getting the short end of the stick here, pitching for Oakland. After last night, I don't know if I'm ever playing an Oakland pitcher. That defense just absolutely crushed Boyle. Wood's never been a guy that's gone deep. Would he have that insane season for the Dodgers a few years ago? But I mean, he's a low strikeout pitcher. His pitch count just gets up so fast that he never really can go too deep in a game. So I think I'm just out on Wood here in this spot. So as for the Red Sox bats, would be looking at righties against Wood, obviously. So really just kind of targeting Devers and O'Neill. Looking at it now, Rafaela maybe could be in consideration. I think, he said decent start to the season. Tristan Casas is actually better than you would expect against lefties, but that price tag is just insane. I'm not going to be playing that. So the ballpark obviously limits a little bit of the upside here for the stack, but I wouldn't be too worried about that. I think the Red Sox are certainly in play, at least as a mini stack. I really like some of these bats here in the middle of the order. They don't have a ton of good righties to pick from for a full stack, but I think O'Neill would make for a great option. All right, as for the A's, they're leverage only. I mean, if Bayo comes in at the Houck ownership, Houck was like 43% on Monday night. I did not expect that at all. If you're just taking a long shot and want to do leverage, sure, why not? I mean, you're trying for first. That'd be the only reason I would include the A's. Bayo definitely struggled against lefties last season. So this is a lineup with some solid lefties. Noda, Blade, just include Zach Geloff just because he's a good hitter. Seth Brown, I think I would try to get some of these lefties. And then, if you need a cheap catcher or something, Langoliers is there. But I mean, Bayo, I much prefer Bayo, but the A's they're as good as leverage as it comes on this slate. All right, last game we got Giants, Dodgers, Logan Webb, 8.3K. Dodgers have a opener situation to Nelson Lamet opening, Ryan Yarbrough, 8.2K. Webb was it was pretty good, right? Yeah, against the Padres, 5Ks through 6 innings. That's kind of what I expect for him. Is just below strikeout per 9. I don't know, it just looks like he would just be filthy, but just doesn't quite get the strikeouts that you'd expect from a pitcher at his level. Against the Dodgers here, I'm just out. I don't know if I'm ever going to play a pitcher against the Dodgers. So we can just move on from there. As for this opener situation, I tend to just stay away from it. You never know what to expect. And plus, Yarborough's price is insane, 8.2K. I mean, Bayo's 8K. Why would we play a guy that might pitch the 3rd through 6th inning against the Giants instead of the guy who's starting the game against the A's? So I think I'm just going to be out on this whole situation here. As for the Giants hitters, though, I hate targeting bats against opener situations because, I mean, you might get something like Slater might start and then, or somebody or Slater will come in for for your Strzemski or something. The second Yarbrough comes into the game, you know what I mean? It's just weird stuff like that. Wilmer Flores might sub in for Lamont Wade once Yarbrough comes in. So I really don't like full stacking here. If you want to take a couple one-offs, just decent matchup, I think Jung-Hoo Lee and Jorge Soler would be my interest. They're obviously staying in the game no matter what. So I think those guys would be in play. As for the Dodgers bats, I don't really think I'm going to get there. Their price tags are, high as always, and here against the spot against Webb. I mean, I don't think anyone would be surprised if Webb went out and shut them down. But I have a feeling it'll probably just be somewhere in the middle between a great game and a bad game. I expect Webb to kind of go, 5 to 6 innings, maybe 3 runs. Probably not a home run. He's a high ground ball pitcher. So I think I'm just gonna be out on the Dodgers. All right. So that is the full slate. Just recapping, I think the top pitchers are Bieber and Bayo. I think that's 9-game slate. I don't think they care too much ownership like we saw with Houck and Manaea and some guys on the last few slates. I think they're at least reasonable. So I don't think you have to go crazy getting off of them. Some other guys to consider up there would be Darvish and Castillo. A little bit tougher strikeout matchup for both of these guys, but they are still above average pitchers. So I think both of them are in play. You have kind of weird guys or weird matchups for aces, Gallen and Webb, against good offenses. So I tend to stay away from those guys. If they come in completely unowned, then maybe. And then the 2 kind of cheaper guys I'm looking at would be Nestor Cortez, 7.3K, and Ronaldo Lopez, 7.5K. But I do prefer Lopez between those 2. As for stacks, I think Braves are, they're the top stack on the day. Them and the Dodgers are both the best offenses, but the Braves are playing the White Sox while the Dodgers are facing Webb. So I do like the Braves. Some other teams to consider after going through it. I think the Astros might be more in play than I initially or initially thought at the time. Some of these prices are really good. Diaz 3.3, Abreu 4.1, Pena 3.4, and that kind of allows you to get 2 of the top 4 batters. So I think the Astros are in play. For leverage or kind of under on stack, you could go like Cardinals, or maybe even like Cubs. I'm not too concerned about maybe the weather is enough to get you off there, but the Rockies are just so bad. So those are some of the kind of the middle of the road teams. Of course, we kind of touched on them as we went through. And like I said, I'm just staying away from this Tigers-Mets game. Then the leverage of all leverage, go crazy, would be the A's. But you just have to understand this, there's a chance you get dead last in your contest, and you just have to live with that. For one-offs, Victor Scott was somebody that we looked at. Tyler O'Neill potentially as a one-off. Just kind of scrolling through, see if anybody else stands out as guys we mentioned. Maybe Josh Naylor. Justin Turner would be an interesting one-off. He was solid. Last time out against the lefty. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, and then maybe like Darno or RC as well. Even if you don't stack the Braves, I could see getting some of the bottom of the order pieces. So, all right. That's it for the show today. Hope you found this helpful. Like I said, if I don't have a show, I tend to at least try to do a write-up. I probably won't do a write-up today just because all that information's in here. It's just the same thing. If you don't know yet, I do have a website that has a lot of prop tools. That's kind of the main stuff on there. The DFS stuff's kind of just an aside. So you can see we have all the props for for Underdog and Prize Picks on here. For MLB, NBA, and NHL. I'm not going to show it every day just because this is behind the paywall. So if that does interest you, you're welcome to subscribe and join. I do have just free versions where it'll show just the top 3 plays, sorted by expected ROI, so you can kind of see there, what I'm finding value in. So, all right, hope that helps. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you at the top.